Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to Star Wars Lads. Liam here today to talk to you about the new young adult novel from Star Wars canon by E.K. Johnston, Crimson Climb. I'm going to give you all of my thoughts on the plot, the characters, the writing, and of course give you a score out of 5. Before we do so though, make sure you're hitting that like button and you're subscribed to the channel. We do book reviews for every new released Star Wars book, so if you're interested in Star Wars books, you're just finding us for the first time, this is a great place to talk about Star Wars books. Stay tuned for a variety of other great content, including live streams, shorts, and of course more videos. If you've read Crimson Climb, let me know in the comments section below what your thoughts were. This is going to be a non-spoiler review, so for those of you who are interested in getting this book, but you're not sure if you'll like it, these are going to be my non-spoiler thoughts on all of the stuff in this novel. So as always with these book reviews, let's start off with the writing and the plot, the story, the narrative. What is this book about and how is it written? So obviously from the cover and kind of what you can assume from the title, Crimson Climb is about Qi'ra from Solo, a Star Wars story, played by Emilia Clarke. The book literally starts right after she is left by Han and she's captured by Moloch and the White Worms again. The plot of the story follows that moment and then goes from there all the way through her progression and climb through the ranks of Crimson Dawn. I'm not super familiar with Johnston's work. I have read Ahsoka, but I haven't touched the Queen's trilogy, so this is only the second novel of hers I've read in Star Wars. But I did enjoy the writing here. I thought it was fast-paced. It was pretty brutal and violent, especially coming from Ahsoka. It's not really like that in the Ahsoka novel. You get to see the stages of Qi'ra, and the language in the book really progresses with Qi'ra as she grows from survivor to really cold-blooded killer. There's also some great internal monologues in her head as she gets to discuss kind of her past and stuff with Han. It's a lot of really good insight to the way that character thinks, and ultimately I enjoyed the way Qi'ra was written in this novel. I also thought the pacing was really good for this novel. I think this is a story that I want to see more from, but as a novel, as a self-contained book, the book does a good job of progressing you through the novel without much fluff. There weren't really any sequences in which I was bored. Some felt more exciting than others, but for the most part, I thought each sequence of events built on each other enough to where when the character gets to where she is by the end of the novel, you have a nice ladder for her to have climbed up through her events by the time you get to the climax. Not to spoil what happens in this book, but the book does feel like the first part of a series. By the time it's wrapping up, that's when you're really getting into the meat of the Crimson Dawn storyline. It seems like there's a big chunk of time missing still between the end of this book and where she is in Solo. But then let's transition to the character section of this book, because I did mention Qi'ra quite a few times in the plot section. Obviously, the plot is all about her. You can't not mention her. But she is a really well-written character. It feels true to who she is, both at the beginning of Solo, a Star Wars story, in Most Wanted, but also with who she is in most of what we see from Solo, a Star Wars story, and then progresses into in the recent Charles Soule comics. But Qi'ra still does go through big changes. You do get a good sense of her thoughts as she witnesses a lot of carnage that is built up in the lives that she is forced into, how she adapts, and what being a survivor meant with the White Worms versus what it means with Crimson Dawn. It really is a nice examination of the character. Then on top of that, the other major standout character really is Dryden Vos. Qi'ra has by far the most page time in this book. There's nobody who's even close, but her conversations with Dryden Vos definitely help build that character out into who you see in the films. He's just as quietly scary, has that very suave persona that you know can switch in an instant. I did like the way Johnston described the markings on his face, the way his face would turn red. You do get kind of a visual, not only that you see in the film, but you really get a bit of that Maul in him, and it was cool to read that. So finally, my last few thoughts here and my score out of 5. I thought Crimson Climb is a good book. I enjoyed it. It's very short. It's fast-paced. It's snappy. It's a good book to read, I guess, here right before we end up diving into Phase 3 of the High Republic. It's something that definitely reignited my interest for the time period and the characters and story around Solo, a Star Wars story. Qi'ra remains to be like the most fascinating character from that story to me. And if there are follow-up books to Crimson Climb, I would absolutely excitedly read them. It seems like the meat of this story and the meat of who Qi'ra is really will be delved into in at least one more follow-up. But this was a solid Star Wars book. If you're interested in this era, if you're interested in these characters, I do think you'll like it. I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. So thank you so much for watching this review. Again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. We have a ton of Star Wars book content on this channel, including bookshelf tours, including reviews of Legends books, every new released canon book. This is a great place to talk about Star Wars books, comics, all things Star Wars literature, so make sure you do subscribe if you're interested in that. Like the video if you haven't, it really helps us out. You can check out our Patreon and YouTube membership tiers. We have a lot of cool perks over there for all of you if you're interested. Stay tuned for a lot more great content coming here in the future, including a Mara Jade character guide, how to read and play everything that she's been in, as well as a Halloween special number 3 coming here pretty soon. And stay tuned for live streams every single Monday. You can ask us anything you want on those streams. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.